On behalf of the AsiaGlobal Institute, I would like to offer a warm welcome to all of our distinguished guests and participants. My name is Maria Perez Esteve, and I will be your Master of Ceremonies today. I am one of the 15 Global Asia Fellows, and we belong to a program initiative by the AsiaGlobal Institute known as the AsiaGlobal Fellows Program. It brings together mid-career professionals from around the world with a recognized expertise in their respective fields and who share in the vision of bringing Asian perspectives to global issues. In these challenging times, we hope to work together through our networks to make the world a better place. And on behalf of all the fellows and myself, I would like to take this opportunity to publicly thank the AGI and HKU for putting together a remarkable program and for hosting us in Hong Kong these past 3 months. And now, turning to the program, we are honored to have Ms. Carrie Lam, Chief Executive of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, here with us today to deliver opening remarks. I'd also like to draw your attention to our keynote speeches. Joseph Tsai of Alibaba will be joining us at lunch. Sri Ramadaf, Secretary General of India's ruling BJP, will be joining us at 5:30 this afternoon. And Mark Tucker, Group Chairman of HSBC Holdings, will be our guest speaker at the gala dinner later tonight. For a full schedule and a list of our speakers and their bios, please refer to the printed programs which have been provided to you in the conference packs. Before we begin, I would like to remind everyone that mobile phones and electronic devices must be on silent mode. We would also like to remind all participants that Asia Global Dialogue is a formal event, and all present must conduct themselves in a dignified and respectful manner. Without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Fung from the Advisory Board, co-chair of the Asia Global Institute, to say a few words. Dr. Fung.
Chief Executive, Professor Mathieson, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I would first of all like to extend to you a very warm welcome to the 4th Asia Global Dialogue and the 2nd to be held by AGI, Asia Global Institute, at the University of Hong Kong. We are really privileged to have such a distinguished list of speakers from academia, from business, from multilateral organizations, and from civil society. They come from Hong Kong, the mainland of China, and other Asian regions and countries, as well as from Europe and the United States. When AGD last met in this historic hall last year, a few of us would have thought to imagine the course that we have embarked on. In just 1 year's time, we find ourselves bearing witness to events that many of us here today, particularly I think our student observers in the top gallery there, may have only encountered in their history books. These have been absolutely amazing historic moments. Globalization might have pulled millions of people out of poverty, and particularly in our part of the world. However, we have to recognize it has also resulted in a growing inequality gap, which in turn has allowed populism to thrive. I think we all know that the future belongs to our technological progress, and we'll say a lot about that in our program. However, there are also very important to recognize that the rise of new technologies, things like artificial intelligence and so on, could have a negative impact also on our labor force and employment and so on, and as a result, could very likely worsen this inequality gap. There is a need for fresh voices and critical dialogue to address these 21st century issues, and to point out that while we must focus on innovation and technological progress, that peace and prosperity will also depend on openness, understanding, a lot of dialogue, and I think a continued open and globalized world. The Asia Global Dialogue provides an opportunity to showcase AGI's research and research themes, and for thought leaders to come together and discuss issues linked to this work. Each AGD is organized around one theme, and the theme for today's dialogue is to provide Asian perspectives in a new global economy. We are seeking to gain insight and shed light from different Asian perspectives on some of the pressing issues and new realities that are driving rapid change in our economies and our societies on a worldwide basis. AGD will look at populism, evaluating the hidden costs and benefits of globalization. We will also spend time looking at artificial intelligence, talk about the need for fostering sustainability, inclusive growth. We will also look at how the rise of populism might have impacted global trade and finance. I believe we're in for a very interesting day. Let me end by thanking once again the university, Professor Mathieson, and the many other senior people from Hong Kong U who are dedicated to supporting AGI in building its strength and excellence as we go forward and carrying out the work of bringing Asian perspectives to global issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fung, for those welcoming remarks. And now we would like to invite Professor Peter Mathieson, President and Vice Chancellor of the University of Hong Kong, to deliver a few words. Professor Mathieson.
Thank you very much, Maria. So, Mrs. Carrie Lam, Chief Executive of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region and Chancellor of the University, welcome home to your university, your alma mater. Dr. Victor Fung, Professor Michael Spence, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's my very distinct pleasure to add my words of welcome to the Asia Global Dialogue and to this historic venue, Loke Hall, here at the University of Hong Kong. It's about 3 years ago that Dr. Victor Fung first talked to me about the idea of incorporating what was previously the Fung Global Institute into the University of Hong Kong and calling it the Asia Global Institute. And this was a recognition by Victor and his colleagues that in order to be sustainable, in order to make an impact in the world, the Institute needed to have a university base. It needed to have a research base. And I was very honored that Victor had chosen to discuss with the University of Hong Kong whether we were able to provide that base. It took me no time at all to decide that that was a good idea and to play my part in making it happen. So we're very happy to have the Asia Global Institute here at the University of Hong Kong. And you've heard mention, and indeed Maria is one of the Asia Global Fellows, this is one of the early manifestations of the success of AGI. We've brought a group of 15 very talented, very diverse individuals from various different parts of the world and various different walks of life to Hong Kong U. You're going to hear from them during the program. Many of you have already met some of them. And these people, I think, will be the first cohort of what I hope will be succeeding cohorts of Asia Global Fellows who will come and spend some time here, who will leave Hong Kong with some knowledge of Hong Kong and some knowledge of Hong Kong U that they didn't previously have, that will go on, I think, to success in various walks of life in various parts of the world. And I hope we'll always remember the contribution that Hong Kong U and AGI made to that success. I think it'll be a very powerful alumni network, and I really look forward to seeing the fruits of that program over the next few years. So that brings me to the Asia Global Dialogue. As you've heard, this is the flagship event of previously FGI and now AGI. This is the second one to be held at the University of Hong Kong. It has a theme, as you've heard, of globalization. My feelings about globalization are well known. I've often spoken and talked about this. I'm an ardent fan of globalization. I think globalization has been a good thing for the world, and I think it's largely irreversible. And I think we'll talk about a lot of that during the sessions in the meeting. But it's clear, as Victor has outlined, that there are many challenges to globalization. There are many people who feel that they've been left behind. There's an increasing gap between the haves and the have-nots, and that is certainly one of the factors that's seen the emergence and the re-emergence of populist views, sometimes quite extreme populist views. So a question for me and people like me is, how should universities respond to this challenge to globalization? How should we respond to what has been a tide of anti-intellectual rhetoric? My personal view is that universities have a social and moral obligation to lead the justification for globalization, to explain why we believe in it, to provide evidence as to why we believe in it, and to try and convince those that doubt the benefits of globalization that globalization is here to stay and can benefit all. Certainly in higher education, globalization, I think, is a very active part of our mission here at the University of Hong Kong and at other similar universities around the world. We've set as one of our targets, one of our strategic aims in our 10-year vision, further internationalization. We're already regarded as one of the most international universities in the world, but we're not satisfied with that. We want to have internationalization both here on campus and also for our students and staff spending time outside Hong Kong. And we think that our mission is to prepare our graduates for success in a global society, not to only think about one region. So I quite agree with Victor that many of those people who are against globalization have legitimate claims. Socioeconomic growth and technology have not benefited everybody, but these grievances need to be addressed, and it's urgent that we do so. The prejudices and the emotive cant of populism are an anathema to academics and universities, because everything we do is rooted in evidence. And so in both addressing the rhetoric against globalization and in searching for strategies to move forward, we must present the evidence. We cannot just assume that sheer force of intellectual argument will be sufficient to convince the doubters. Universities are very resilient organizations, and if we don't make the case, who will? So I'm very pleased to see that the AsiaGlobal Dialogue has come back to Hong Kong U again today and has brought together experts from different disciplines and professions, including leading policymakers, academics, business and civil society leaders who have a deep understanding of Asia. We'll be examining issues triggered by populism and the perceived retreat from globalization. This is very timely and relevant to Hong Kong U because, as I've said, we see ourselves at the forefront of globalization of higher education, and we regard this as critical to our future. I want to thank all the organizers at the Institute and, of course, Victor himself for their continued belief in the university and their support in all of our endeavors. My thanks also to the sponsors who've supported this conference and to all of those who've worked so very hard to make it possible. My congratulations to AGI on what I'm sure will be a productive and successful event. And again, a very welcome to all of you to the University of Hong Kong. Thank you very much.